I just got back from teaching at Savannah College of Art and Design, and I've got to say, the learning environment there is really incredible, and the faculty truly cares about their students' success, and it really shows. While I was demoing live for the students from a live model, I had this thought: what is the most useful tool that I rely on when drawing? And honestly, it's just a plumb line. Just dropping a simple vertical or horizontal line to check the alignment, it's a total game changer for keeping proportions accurate. In this video, I'll show you how I use a plumb line when drawing from the model. I'll also be reviewing a few of the other methods that I've shared on the channel, like the CAM method, the Elastic X, and the Van Dyke Z. All tools that really help you to draw with more confidence and accuracy. So let's get into it. To demonstrate the idea of the plumb line within a drawing, I also want to talk about this idea of creaturizing and seeing shapes between negative and positive. I think that's also very, very helpful. So we have a self-portrait that I did here on the left. I cut out the background just so it wasn't distracting, and then we could just put it onto the paper. Let's start here. So I have my Derwent pencil. Again, I have a new layer to be able to draw so that I'm not on the layer of the actual image, so I can draw over the image as well and kind of show you guys plumb lines. I actually have with me a ruler, a plastic ruler that I'm going to use to draw plumb lines to make it a little bit easier for me. And I'll show you guys this in the description box below. I'll have a link to what I'm using. Plastic I think is really good because it doesn't affect, metal rulers tend to affect I'll show you guys just with the iPad. See, I can do straight lines here. I'm just using this plastic ruler that I bought while I was in SCAD in Atlanta at an art store called Sam Flax. Great art store. And so I'm going to use this to kind of show you guys the plumb lines of what I'm kind of thinking within the drawing. Now I have my size all the way up to 100. I have my opacity. I'm going to make about 50% like we usually do. When I do the sketches, you guys have seen me draw in here a lot. So coming over, make sure we have a new layer. Start with the top of the head. Right, thinking about how that's going to sit. Where's the chin going to be? That looks okay. Thinking about just blocking in really quickly, where like the thrust of the front of my face is going to be. That looks okay. Kind of what's this curve doing there? I don't love that line. Gonna make it a little bit thinner. Cool. Just like shoulders. Blocking in. All right, just keeping it super simple. That's our compose within the CAM method, C-A-M. The C stands for to compose. Basically setting up our top of our head, bottom of our chin. Where is the drawing going to sit on our canvas when we paint or draw? Now, we want to anchor, which is the A for CAM. So we have compose, anchor. So thinking about where our anchor point is for our eyes, right? Kind of in what we think is kind of the central keystone shape of what's going on with these orbital cavities, right? That's kind of where our eyes are going to be. Because we're locking these, we're anchoring this shape in, it makes it correct. And what do I mean by that is this is what we're going to judge everything else around within the sketch. This is going to be our anchor point. From here, we're going to start to measure out what's the length from here to here. Hopefully you guys can see my cursor. Let me see if I can make it a little bigger. From here to here. From here to here. That's measuring. So that's the M within the CAM method. And our orbital cavities we're going to adjust as we go. We're going to make the shapes a little bit more nuanced. But at this point, we're just using it as our measuring spot, our home base for measuring. So from here to here. So I also think about what's the length of the brow ridge from here to here, and then the length of the nose. What's the brow ridge from here to here, length of the nose. So that's again using that Van Dyke Z that we always talk about. So from here to here, and then the length of the nose, and what's the underplane. Just keeping it super, super simple, not worrying about the roundness of the nose at all yet. Keeping it basic. Where's the brow, like the nose right here, the wing of the nostril. Now, this is that idea of measuring out. So where's within here to here, let's think about that movement of how the head kind of turns, goes forward, the hairline on my painting. Looks pretty good. If we measure out again from our keystone shape in the middle here, and we go north, how big is that forehead? I think it's around this size. So come in, knock in where I think the forehead is going to be, kind of take a trip around. That looks pretty good. Now, at this stage, I want to think about this idea of plumb lines, right? So we've used the idea of cam, our compose, our anchoring, composing, where I'm going to fit on the canvas, where our eyes are as our anchor point, and then we're starting to measure out. Now, when we measure out, we want to think about, we used a Van Dyke Z to kind of think about what the length of the nose was, right through there, and where's the mouth going to attach. We're also going to start using this idea of plumb lines. So I'm trying to think of all the tools that I used when I was learning how to draw, and that I do use almost intuitively. Now at this point, I want to kind of make it so that these are things that you guys are aware about as tools for when you guys start to draw. So I'm going to use my plastic, you can hear my plastic ruler here. I'm going to think about dropping a plumb line on the drawing now, or sorry, on the painting, so on the left. So I'm over here, you can see my cursor, I'm going to drop a plumb line right there on that part of that brow ridge. That helps me to think about where the plumb line would be over. So imagine that I'm holding my plumb line that I showed you guys earlier in the video in the intro against the model. And there's this idea, I'm going to go through this idea of creaturizing. So plumb line here, thinking about the distance of the nose to the plumb line right through there. That looks okay. Now we want to think about what this shape right in here is, right? So when we creaturize, it's a term basically is you're kind of thinking about what does this entire shape look like to you, right? And then you can think about what that shape is and then draw it next to it and kind of pull this piece away from this area. Now, to me, for some reason, I always think that when I do the side of the face, it tends to look like New Hampshire for me. And I can't even pick, I can pick New Hampshire, I think, off of a map. It's part of New England and never been there. But thinking about what New Hampshire looks like in my head as just kind of a thing of creaturizing. So I go to my drawing, my sketch, to understand what's going on here. We got kind of this, thinking more of the subtlety of what our shape is doing, and we're creaturizing that kind of shape. And then we come down to here, this is where the shoulder is, and we knock that in. That's kind of an idea to get a simple basic idea of what this shape in here is doing as compared to this shape. Really interesting. Creaturizing you can do within the figure as well, but I tend to use it as this idea that this is our model is our positive shape, and this shape where it meets the background is our negative shape. And then I can also kind of flip that as well and think about how the negative shape and the positive shape can be, the background can be positive and the negative can be the actual figure taking up the space of the atmosphere. So it's a really interesting thing. So you can go back and forth. You want to flip your brain around the drawing. And what I mean by that is just it gives you a different way of thinking about what it is that you're seeing. And that helps us to capture the pose more accurately because we're starting to see things in a different way, right? So there, in some way, if you're kind of in tune with this method and you're kind of getting too myopic, if you kind of flip your thinking to positive, negative, and then negative to positive, background being our positive, figure being our negative, then it just gives us a different way to see something, and we might be able to capture some mistakes that we might see. And it's all about seeing our mistakes, which is pretty awesome about drawing. It's built on these, at first, these guesstimates that we're finding out if we're correct or not correct. So let's do the same with the top of where my hairline is, since we have the same plumb line kind of already established, what is this shape in here doing? So it's like a small sliver, right? Thinking about those shapes. And so if I come over and I have my forehead, I can see that it kind of comes down, over, down. And we have a little bit of a lip right there from where the eyebrow is going to be, right there, that overlap, where this part of my eye is going to be, and this little sliver on that side. Now I'm drawing a little darker than I normally would, just so I want to make sure you guys can see what is going on here. Let's kind of get this orbital cavity on this side kind of established as well. Awesome. Now, plumb lines are good at using this idea of creaturizing, as I say. They're also really great at understanding where we can measure out from different areas, right? So if we think about the elastic X idea, right? So we're going to do a line across my face right there. The elastic X that we talk about goes to the bottom part of the wing of the nostril to the corner of our mouth. And this is a shape I always look for. You can see that X shape right there. And so this kind of shifts and moves, but if we try to capture that same movement over within our sketch, I'm going to do it very lightly, and then we match where our nose is going to kind of come in. I can match the shape. On the iPad it's pretty fun because I can kind of match the shape in with my ruler here. And there's our X, our elastic X. I say elastic because this shape changes based on the movement of the model and how they move and shift. And that gives us another measuring point to find where the corner of the mouth is. Now again, we're not following that nasal labial fold when we go in there. People kind of use that as a measuring point a lot, but I find it to be inaccurate because it's not bringing us to the corner of the mouth. It's bringing us on the model right here. It's bringing us outside of the corner of the mouth to these ferrules that we have, furrows that we have on the sides of our mouth instead of the actual corner of the mouth. And I want to know where the corner of our mouth is going to lie. Now, plumb lines also, again, using our reference here, our reference model, drawing a plumb line from the corner of the eye down is going to help us to see where things are lined up as well. So we're going to do another vertical through here, and that kind of shows us what our vertical should be on our model, right? Getting that corner of the nose that we already have established, the wing of the nostril, and the corner of the eye. We're almost kind of setting up, I guess, like a grid kind of vibe, a grid that we're going to use as a way to check things. But it's a grid that we're using over top of a life model. And using this is going to help me to find where the corner of the mouth is going to be. And I see it around there, and also where the shadow is. This is what it's doing, is these plumb lines are helping us to triangulate where things are sitting on this track, right? This vertical track. And that's helping us to align things in a very accurate way. You know, even so early, I feel like we have a good grasp of what's going on. And I love this because our eyes are established in the center point of our drawing, and we have this as our anchor point. I know if I use this as a point, I can drop a plumb line again from that corner, and I can tell from the model, and I look over at the model as if I'm working from life, like what drops in from that same point. Sorry for that screeching noise. So then we have that. So that tells me that the hairline starts around here, right? This cheek is pulling around like right about there as that pulls into the orbital cavity. That gives us a triangulation mark. And then where else does it hit? It hits, yeah, it shows that this is where the dark kind of establishes into the corner of the mouth. As we pull forward, and it helps us to establish these structures. that we're putting in. It's another way of using these straight angular lines as measuring spots for ourselves. Awesome. If you guys are finding this useful, awesome. If you guys have questions, feel free to ask them in the comment section. I'd love to hear from you guys. I'm really enjoying doing these videos, kind of just showing you guys things, tricks and tips and ideas and concepts and strategies that I've used to become a better draftsman over the years. And I do not shy away from any tips or tricks. I want to try everything because for me, the process is a lot of fun, making something that looks like what I want it to look like and having that control as a visual thinker, but also anything that's going to help me make a strong image is going to help me, is something I want to use. And for me, it's all about making a strong image. So let's go where the ear is, right? So here I'm going to do a horizontal plumb line now, because we can do those as well over top of there. And that shows me that. And I go to the top of the ear. So this is me on the model, looking at the model with the plumb line that I showed you guys. The plumb bob, I think they call it. That's the top of the ear. Now I can go to my sketch, and I know that the bottom of the ear here lines up with the top part of the wing of the nostril, right, which is right here. So I know that this lines up with the bottom of the ear through a line here. Let me I'll line that up so we can get it kind of vertically. Hopefully I'll get this from there to there, and that shows me that on that track that the ear kind of sits, right? And same with the top of the ear is going to line up with the middle of the brow right through there. And that helps me to think about that shape. Now I also want to think about just kind of sketching here. What is going on with this part of the shadow? That looks pretty good. This comes over, just triangulating and moving around again, anchoring. My shirt lines up pretty good with here, so I'm thinking about those plumb lines. Sometimes you can just kind of use your pencil to kind of pull across and see it without actually having to draw an actual line. It's pretty useful. Now within the sketch, I'm going to come in and just kind of block in my darks just to kind of show you guys how I would go about the sketching. And we're just going to come in here and just kind of block in the dark here. Now what you guys hear is that my paper light, I have a really cool, it's called a paper-like surface on my iPad. Gives us that ASMR kind of sound, that scraping sound, because it's got a texture to it. So I'm not just using the iPad on glass. It's on this little plastic surface that's really nice. Kind of mimics what paper feels like. What's going on with the top of the head? Just kind of block in. Getting all the proportions kind of established here. Think about what's going on in the eyes. Just keep that simple. Underplane of the nose, top lip, lower lip. The nose is kind of rounded more than I'm going to round it more. Thinking about these shapes in here. Knocking in. This gets darker through here. Kind of using these plumb lines, the Elastic X, the Van Dyke Z as a way to just sort of establish things in the very beginning pretty loosely that I can come back in and adjust later and simplify. exactly what I do with traditional medium. And this is great because I was demonstrating all of these things, these methods this past week at Savannah College of Art and Design on Friday. I did an all-day demo in Atlanta, though, the Atlanta campus. And I'll be doing something at the Savannah campus soon, I believe. We've been talking. Such a great team of artists there that are there to support the students that go to that school. I know that art schools sometimes get a bad rap, but Savannah really, their faculty really wants their students to succeed, and it really shows. That kind of comes in there like that. Establishing the dark, get the back of my head from the ear. It looks okay. Now what's going on with the ear? Getting my orbital cavity knocked in. The glabella. Just kind of scrubbing in. Now the ear is really beautiful. Let's simplify the ear, right? So this shape comes here to here. We have this shape. This pulls in. We have this is all shadow. The ear canal. The darks that surround the ear. This movement through here. I love drawing ears. Now, this is a pretty decent block, and I'm pretty happy with it so far. So at this point, what I do is, well, I come in, use the eraser. I haven't used the eraser yet at all. Come in here, simplify what's going on with the nose. Change the opacity there so it's got some more juice to it. Using the eraser now to come in and just simplify, get rid of some of the plumb lines here. We'll actually make it a sketch now. Now when I'm doing this in real time, I don't leave the plumb line lines. And a lot of them are imaginary when I kind of put them over top of the subject when I'm working with the model. I'm just kind of showing you guys my thought process on the drawing here. I don't actually draw the straight lines on top of my drawing as kind of a grid. I'm just using, this is my thought process coming from the side here all the way down to here. Is that straight or does that line up with? So just so you guys know that it's this is for demonstration purposes only. Simplifying what's going on here. Soften up these edges. So this is where I would take the sketch further. I'm gonna do a new layer and kind of create a halftone value over the entire sketch. Including the background here. Again, if you guys are finding this valuable, please tell me in the comments. Tell me how you guys draw. If you guys have different strategies for finding proportions, I would love to hear about it. Again, I'm learning so much from this channel. I started doing these transparent wash paintings, which I think I'm going to do another video on how I think about transparent washes in worms and cools for imprimatura that we work into and how that affects the top layers. Learning so much about that. I'm doing a little landscape right now on that and painted one of my recent cowboy paintings with this same method. And basically that was an idea to do a video on that for you guys. And now I'm learning, and I think it might actually adjust my methodology when I draw, which is kind of neat. getting a halftone in there. Now I can come in with the eraser and think about what's going on. I'm going to change the opacity down a little bit. What's going on with this area? Now I see that the light is pretty bright up here in my forehead. Just kind of, it's funny, opacity between the two different ones. I love the Derwent pencil here that we have because it does have almost a mimicking quality to real life painting. What's going on with the brow ridge? Having that mid-tone established is really beautiful. What's going on with this part of the nose? This part of the nose. Thinking a little bit, not necessarily about form yet. Still thinking with the passage right here from the nasal labial fold over this little triangle shape under my mouth. A little light pattern here and the underlip. Kind of overplaying the lights right now, just like I was overplaying the darks. Because right now it's all about just finding passages of light by blocking in that halftone. There's a light that passes through here. Go into the light on this side of my face as well. This comes up and over. This is a lot of fun. And so this is the top layer. I'm going to take, now both of these layers and kind of combine them right now. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to merge down. So now everything is on the same layer. And we can come in and start to think about using my reference here. A little bit more, going to use a little bit more of how this light simplifies to show you guys. So still doing kind of an idea of a posterized image. Still doing an idea of a posterized image here. What's going on with my nose, and we can get really specific. There's more of a roundness to it. Oops. My hand hit the this comes up and over and down. Once we get like these main areas established through using the plumb line, it makes getting the quote-unquote information that we're building on top of our initial thoughts here way easier to get. This is all simplified and flows into the upper lip right through here. This gets darker through here. Lower lip. Upper lip comes out to about there, a little bit further than I have it. And I can check myself, which is great. This comes down. This is the chin. The dark of the chin. Again, I'm still simplifying my shapes here. gotta say, drawing this is tells me how handsome I am. Totally kidding. Everyone says I always end up painting myself looking older, and I'm okay with that. So again, we're kind of coming in and then simplifying. I didn't print out a very large reference photo for myself. This comes in and over within the eye. I'm going to just soften out some of these the line work here with the eraser. So we start to move from the idea of having everything kind of outlined, like we do on the bottom part of the mouth here, to thinking about form a little bit more. Come into the ear. What's the space in here doing? Making sure that everything is on this one layer. That's kind of cool. I don't think I got my nose exact. Let me work on this. If I come in here now, I can almost exactly knock out the line quality and then come in and add a value. Think a little bit about the texture. This gets lighter up against here. Again, with the ear, simplify that. This light comes up and around. This part's a little thinner. Awesome. And then let's see how sad I look. I'm not really this sad. Actually, this was a kind of a reaction to certain world events that are going on right now. This portrait is my way. When stuff happens, I kind of search inward, and I find that doing self-portraits kind of show what it was I was thinking during a certain world events of what happened. And this was what I started this painting, I think, during October 7th. This way of kind of contemplating things that happen. Self-portraits are great for that, right? Being completely introverted, being able to think of how you feel in that moment. So that looks pretty good. I'm going to come in with a little bit of a darker wash now, and then I think we'll be done. Opacity, just knocking in. I'll do this on another layer just for fun, because I know all this gets darker, even darker. Even the areas I was going light in, I won't lose those areas completely, those drawing areas. They're just going to be kind of meshed in, and those notes that I took for myself are just going to be meshed into this value wash that I'm doing. But this just helps me to soften up those edges as I go. I can see that this gets a little darker through my hairline. I should do a whole video on how to paint hair and draw hair. I love drawing and painting hair. And getting that kind of interspersing of the skin through the hairline. starting to build up. This is all darker through here. This part is darker. Darker through. And the equivalency of going dark, now we can go and take out some of the, just soften up again with a light into these areas. Back and forth, pulling between light and dark. It's about 40 minutes in. I appreciate you guys watching. If you guys made it this far, I really appreciate it. This is so much fun for me to go back and study this painting that I did. Cool, so we're going to, I'm going to merge these again. And come back in with that eraser one last time, just kind of soften up some of these edges where they meet the background. Just kind of tapping the paper, the iPad. Again, just doing a universal kind of quote unquote wash. Kept some of the plumb lines in there to show you guys kind of the measuring ticks that I'm using. This beautiful light through here on my shirt, a little light through here, a little bit of light on my bottom lip. A little bit of the darks in there. Again, coming back with the pencil. I know I said I was going to stop. I can't stop. It's so much fun. Do you guys ever get that way with a sketch? You just kind of get in the moment and you have too much fun. Because I know if I spent another, I don't know, hour on this, I'd be able to, because I have the good bones, right? I have the structure established pretty well. I think I could make this a pretty finished sketch and learn a lot from it at the same time. This is the back of my head. Comes up and over. Again, still using those straight lines to discover different areas, how this kind of pulls over to lower part of the ear. And I would be able to zoom in and work on what's this shape in here, this shape, kind of simplifying some stuff to show you guys how this comes up and over and down. Simplifying that entire shadow shape is really cool. Same here. I'll come on from the other side. What's the shadow shape doing? This pulls down, over, bottom part of the chin. So using these shapes as a way to check yourself. This comes down, over, straight lines here on top of the sketch. And if we squint, we can see that this area right through here is a lot darker. So we can do that wash of dark in that area, changing my opacity down and just changing that value. Using the side of the pencil to get a broader area in here. Some digital painting techniques, drawing techniques here. Definitely, if I was doing charcoal, my hands would be pretty messy at this point, thinking about these structures. And one last thing, a little too light. Changing the opacity down. Softening it down altogether. Even the boldness of what I showed you guys earlier about capturing the shadow. Awesome. I hope that you guys find this kind of washy way of drawing useful and using plumb lines. I hope that was helpful for you guys. Plumb lines and those shape-based tools really do build a solid foundation for any drawing. I want to send out a huge thanks to everyone supporting the channel on Patreon. The community over there that we've built really means a lot to me, and it's helped me to keep making these videos. And just a quick note before I go. This is my only account on YouTube. There's been some imposter accounts out there pretending to be me in other online discussions. Those are not my words. And we've contacted the proper authorities to handle it. And just so you know, I'll never reach out to you or respond to any comments in any other account other than this one. Let's all stay scam-free and protected in this incredible YouTube community full of different approaches and ideas. This is art. Let's not take it too seriously, and let's have a great time creating. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care. Cheers, and paint well.